Will, look out! Upside-Down Bird cried as she dived through the air towards him. One of the park's maintenance buggies was heading down the path straight towards him. The driver hit the brakes hard, but there was no way he was going to stop in time before he hit Will, who was still climbing to his feet. Upside-Down Bird dived towards Will, feeling her magic flaring as she saw her friends in danger. A split second before the buggy hit Will, there was a bright green flash, and then the whole world turned upside down. Chapter 2. Will dropped onto the concrete with a thump that knocked the wind out of him. He slowly rose to his feet as the green flare of Upside-Down Bird's magic faded away. "Wow," Will said, with a relieved sigh, as Upside-Down Bird landed in front of him. "Thanks for the save. That was too close." "I know I'm not supposed to use my magic in public," Upside-Down Bird said, "but it just sort of happened." "I'm very glad it did," Will said, standing up and dusting himself off. As he ran his hands over his clothes, he looked down and suddenly realized that his homemade costume had been replaced by an authentic-looking superhero suit in the colors of Captain Wonderful. The white suit was snug but comfortable, with sturdy boots and gauntlets that were much more impressive than the trainers and washing-up gloves he'd been sporting just a few seconds ago. "Where did this costume come from?" Will asked as he looked down at the large red W logo on his chest. "We've definitely not been here before," Randolph said as he stood up and took in their surroundings. They were standing on the top of a tall building that was surrounded by other, even taller buildings in the middle of the biggest city that Will had ever seen. The metropolis was shrouded in darkness, with thick clouds of smoke hanging in the air, and in the distance, they could hear the distant explosions and rumbles of combat. Randolph, are you feeling okay?" Upside-Down Bird asked, as she and Will both stared at their friend. "Perfectly fine. Why?" Randolph asked. "Because you look a bit different too," Will said with a slight frown. Randolph's tinfoil and cardboard outfit had been replaced by genuine mechanical parts, including a glowing red eye and a robot arm with a large claw on the end of it. Randolph brought the claw up in front of his surprised face and snipped the air with his new razor-sharp mechanical talons a couple of times. "Awesome," Randolph said quietly as he admired his new metal arm. "And just a tiny bit scary," Upside-Down Bird said as she landed on Will's shoulder. "Sounds like there's a war going on," Will said as he walked over to the waist-high wall that ran around the edge of the roof. He looked down into the streets below and saw a scene of total chaos. Mangled cars and vans filled the rubble-covered streets, and most of the buildings appeared to be damaged in some way. There was a sudden bellowing roar from the far end of the street, and a 12-foot-tall monster covered in blue scales appeared at the far end of the street below them. Just below them, a figure in a skin-tight green suit was stuck to the wall on the corner of the building whose roof they were standing on. "You'll have to do better than that if you want to catch the gecko!" The man in green spandex laughed at the enraged monster. A long, forked lizard's tongue flickered out from the man's mouth as he blew a raspberry at the hulking creature. The monster roared again and charged at the man, barreling down the street like a runaway train as it swatted aside the wrecked vehicles in its path. The gecko leapt high into the air, an instant before the monster reached him, the creature smashing straight through the concrete wall with an earth-shattering boom. Far above, Will felt the whole roof move in a way that the roofs of large buildings definitely shouldn't. "Uh-oh," Randolph said. Will and Randolph staggered, struggling to stay on their feet as the whole building beneath them began to very slowly tip. "Grab onto something," Will yelled over the sound of shattering concrete from below. "Okay," Randolph shouted, grabbing onto Will's leg. "No, I mean..." "Oh, never mind," Will said, looking around frantically for any way off the roof.